Good afternoon to everyone. It's just about 2:30 p.m. here Eastern Time in Maryland. Back on my channel here to give you a couple of updates, some more information on the Eton Elite Satellite, which, as everyone knows by now, has been very problematic in the way it was rolled out by Eton, and it has a number of pretty significant issues that need to be corrected. First of all, some of you may have seen a ham radio outlet which appeared to be carrying the Elite Satellite radios. According to a note I received from the national sales manager of ham radio outlet, whose name is Steve Gilmore, he says that, quote, "These radios are all going back to the factory to be firmware corrected and fixed." He said problems do occur, and Eton has had very few problems over the years. Obviously, this one is a big deal, but they will get these fixed. Meanwhile, he adds, finally, until the newer models arrive, they will not be shipping out from ham radio outlet. So anyway, that's the word from HRO on the receiver. As everyone knows, the receivers also, by the way, appeared on the Adorama website for a price of, I believe, $5.99, and it did appear also that on another site that they were being offered along with an Elite field radio, another Eton receiver, probably to encourage people to buy the receiver. So excuse me, here's the story from my perspective. The Elite Satellite really needs some intensive retooling in order to justify a $700 price, certainly. This is really not a $700 radio. This is at best maybe a $300 to $350 radio. If one really wanted to spend $400, I suppose you could justify that. But the main problem, of course, is the muted tuning. And you hear this right away. Firmware 1.05, which is in the unit that I have in back of me here, did not correct the muting problem. Apparently, according to what I've been told, there was another firmware 1.06, but Eton decided to stick with 1.05. As of today, I have no updates on where they stand in this firmware roulette game that they're playing. But the problem also is that this is a very noisy radio. If you compare it, as someone did recently in the last few weeks in a YouTube video, compare it next to an Eton E1, just using the telescopic antenna, the Elite Satellite is quite noisy. Again, just using the telescopic antenna. So whether this has to do with the display, whether that's the main issue, or whether it's the overall design, the DSP design of the receiver, remains to be seen. Also, the next big problem in my book is the passband tuning. It's absolutely clear to some of us that Eton misunderstood what passband tuning was, going back to the days of the E1 XM receiver, which was really true passband tuning, and compared favorably to Drake receivers. And Drake was, of course, involved in the development of that receiver, the E1. What you have in the Elite Satellite is not passband tuning. What they've done is basically they put a fine tuning function onto that passband tuning knob at the lower right. And that fine tuning function is supposedly, according to the label on the radio cabinet, is passband tuning. It is most certainly not. And this is a serious problem. And first of all, they're misrepresenting a feature of the radio. It's not passband tuning, it's actually fine tuning, or actually a kind of a rate incremental tuning, an RIT, that you saw on some other receivers over the past 2 or 3 decades. But this is not passband tuning. Whether Eton's going to be able to fix these things with firmware updates is I'm doubtful that they can do that without going back and checking and reimagining the design of this radio. First of all, they would have to relabel the cabinet knob, which is currently marked as PBT, and relabel that to be accurate for the consumers that are buying this radio. Accurately label it as fine tuning, not passband tuning. There are a few other issues that I've talked about in previous videos, one of which, by the way, is when you're using memory and you're entering frequency into the memory, you see the label appears as MEMORT instead of MEMORY. Wow, I mean that's just a kind of a rookie mistake, a mislabeling on the display. So that's something else that needs to have some attention paid to it, along with the issue of the telescopic whip antenna, which of course, as you know from a previous video, was shaking around in its lower segments, and that kind of quality control issue just shouldn't be happening with the radio that the company is selling for $700. That's about it for now. Again, as of September 15th, that's the story. We're in kind of radio silence now as far as knowing what Eton intends to do next. Assuming that HRO is returning radios that it received, I'm not sure what Universal has done with radios in the initial group that it received. I know that Universal has said that it would have firmware updating capability for the Elite Satellite. But again, where all this stands now, we're kind of in a no man's land of information, a vacuum, and we'll just have to see what comes up in the coming week or two regarding this radio. All right, thanks for viewing the channel, and I'll be back if I learn anything more. Thanks a lot.